Hello, welcome to the Cat with No Teeth. My name is Alan Cross, or Cross ETM, and I'd like to give you a lecture today in connection with the other lectures that I've given on philosophy, to do with the ancient Greeks and the development of metaphysics. But today I'd like to go into more detail about something I covered in the very first lecture I gave on philosophy, which was to do with what is philosophy. And today we're going to actually try and get to the nuts and bolts of, well, what is philosophizing? What essentially is conducting philosophy, and what are the objectives, and what's the history, and where did the modern ideas come from, and how do we philosophize ourselves is the question I'd like you to pose yourself. How do you empathize? How do you reflect? And how do you come to a balanced appraisal of the problems to do with philosophy that come within the sphere of philosophy? Philosophy's built up into different branches of thought, which I spoke about, like a tree, with empiricism, rationalism, skepticism, and furthermore existentialism, postmodernism, and philosophy is actually at the cutting edge of many different subjects, and a lot of academics interested in philosophy because philosophy offers a more varied methodology and way of approaching other subjects other than the what's considered the main pure subjects of philosophy. For example, in science, the whole idea of quantum theory and of relativity came from the kind of the parents of philosophy and mathematics, for example, and how reconciling quantum theory with a probabilistic notion of relativity, for example, is kind of, it typifies the problems of science itself, that science is very much like a sedimentary sample of layers, and those layers, like a sample that a geologist or an archaeologist would take, those layers are from very different origins but they hold together somehow in the real world that we live. You know, actuality works in some sense, even though at different scales and under different conceptual viewpoints, you know, reality looks different. For example, I mean, is typified by the whole notion of whether light is a wave or a particle, and the way that you can do one experiment and it seems clearly one, and another experiment and it seems clearly the other, and the way we see the world, the way we perceive, and the way we select information, as I said in a previous lecture, within our philosophical locus of knowledge, affects the way in which we can see into the reality that we are trying to understand. We can see into the empirical issues of science, and the whole theoretical problems to do with scientific theory, and a kind of this disjuncture between the scales of the minutus and the macro scales, and to do with a lot of the insights of the early philosophers, that that appearances and reality are two different things, and science looks for this unified theory of its scale, of its scope. But what seems to come out as a more complex picture of of kind of contradictory functionality, as it were, a paradoxically based notion of the contradictory, the reality, the tangible, and like we were on a sea of probability floating around in a boat of seemingly like atomic, cohesion. And anyway, and that's something you might be interested in more. I talk about in other lectures, but today I thought it'd be easiest to go back to one of the early thinkers in the modern era, Socrates, and the accounts of Socrates in Plato, to really start understanding what philosophizing is, or philosophizing. Now, Socrates was a very charismatic figure who would, in Plato's dialogues, go around questioning the big academics of the time. I think Gorgias was a notable one. And Socrates' answer to philosophicalizing was that through the dialectic interplay of conversation, Socrates would untangle the problems in his interlocutor's thought, and show the absurdities and the contradictions and the points of skepticism and breadth of skepticism that were involved, in order to kind of unlock the thinking of the academic that he was speaking to. So I mean, in ancient Greek thought, a lot was put onto words and semantics, and semantics seem to be their key to what's beyond life, and to the whole notion of why life is the way it is. The Greeks looked for kind of greater wisdom within semantics, within words, and hence the theory of the forms that derived from the universality of language, and so there's Socrates' or accounts of Socrates' method in terms of, well, where should you start off from philosophy? And they say in books to do with philosophy that it's about determining good argument from bad argument. But I think you'd have to have a philosophical point of view on that point of view itself. Is there a notion of good argument? Is there a hierarchical notion of argument? Is bad argument, or just confusion from somebody who's confused about prior notions to begin with? I mean, or is there a moral overtone to good argument and bad argument? I mean, the Bible speaks of a lot of wisdom of the divine of good, but if you look at Plato's cave, we're very much confused by the way in which life appears to us, and the confusion within the world of appearances and transitionary forces. So it's not doesn't have the clarity of outside the cave that Plato's philosopher has, the ascent to wisdom, or the purity of wisdom in our nature. But we know that philosophy fundamentally revolves around debate, and as I said in my first lecture, you can go off into different areas in philosophy and specialize. But it's like refining an instrument in order to conduct like surgery or something. It's like whittling your stick down until you've got what you wanted, that your tool for, or whatever. Wittgenstein's an interesting thinker in terms of the philosophy of language, in that he he sees language as evolving for a purpose of cooperation and of achieving tasks, and therefore there has to be a parity of thought between two thinkers in order to co-contribute, to cooperate, and therefore language comes from that kind of functionality of humankind achieving things, if you were, in life. I refer to the philosophical investigations if you want to look that up further. But so what are we doing when we philosophize? Well, for me, is seeking a greater clarity on an issue, and also seeing how greater inclarities teach us more a lot of the time than the perfections of perceiving something like the dimensions of geometry or something. That we learn more through getting our teeth into the whole notions of like human nature and the human condition, and the more difficult issues than just perceiving the beauty of mathematics and so forth. Or so we know to a certain degree we've got the elements of reflection, we've got the elements of skepticism, we've got the elements of the dialogue or the dialectic, and the product of having a greater point of view than just one point of view. We've got the whole notion of how deep the problems with skepticism go into our whole notions of human existence. The way that you can hold an anti-realist position that really there isn't such a thing as reality. It's a myth around Plato's cave, that what we're seeing is of such marvel it doesn't have the insinuation of permanence to it. I mean, when I look at the world, I kind of think, is this just a web of probability? And what I'm perceiving is actualizing that probability right now through my senses. But in philosophy, there's a big question of when a tree falls down in the woods, does it make a sound? And somebody might say, well, did it land on a squirrel? But you have to see beyond the actual literal meanings of the example, and see the whole idea that well, what is the world unperceived? Is it just a potentiality waiting there that could be perceived? Is it something obeying different rules, quantum rules of existence, of being a certain contradiction in the notion of existence and non-existence meeting together, the kind of superposition of quantum particles, and the kind of and I mean, if our senses are flawed, as Descartes argued to a degree, he would argue that, well, you can't trust something that would deceive you.